Hello, everybody. Welcome to a fun episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings in the afternoon. We switch it up every now and then for people that are worth that kind of flexibility. And our guest today absolutely is Mina Kimes of ESPN. Although we say of ESPN, but really Mina Kimes of the Seahawks fan base is how she really should be described. The pride of Washington and other places. But Mina, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've got a bunch to catch up with you on. How's life?
Life is good. I am excited to talk a little Seahawks. I haven't been talking a ton of Seahawks this offseason, and I haven't done the NFC West yet on my pod. We are going to do it in a couple weeks, I think. I've been doing season previews on the Mina Kimes show, so Seahawks fans, now is the time to subscribe if you don't already, because we're going to talk about the NFC soon.
The Mina Kimes show with Lenny, absolutely must listen to content. And there's folks who are like, "Oh my God, Mina's on the show. It's amazing." I'm like, Mina's been on this show for like a decade. We like back when Mina was an investigative journalist doing ESPN magazine articles. We talked about Frank Clark. And Mina, I almost put you through something that I decided to spare you from you and Danny Kelly and I doing a 2017 Seahawks prediction show where we spent an unreasonable amount of time talking about Reese Odhiambo at left tackle and how he was going to perform. But
that's a name I haven't thought of in a while. Not Kelly, but
me too. Oh my God. It was hard. It was a hard listen. So I spared you from that. Hey, since the last time I saw you, you've become a parent. And before we get into all the Seahawks stuff, I always want to talk about just the person. I mean, what's parent life been like for you? Is there one surprise for you of being a mom now that you didn't anticipate coming? I'm sure there's a million.
Yeah, I think just how quickly it's going by. My kid turns a year in the end of September, and it's just like unbelievable to me. And also, just like the rate of change is wild. Like, you turn around and it's like he develops like a new skill every day, and even like silly things like figuring out that he can bang two objects together, or like he looks at a stuffed animal and he grabs it. It's just so like. It's just unbelievable how unbelievably quickly it's moving.
You said recently, I think I saw a tweet from you recently that you've picked up a lot of lessons of parenting from your coworkers that have a bunch of kids. I know Orlovsky's got like 17,000 kids. I don't know, something like that. Anyone that you want to share with the rest of us, something that kind of stood out to you?
Oh my goodness. I mean, the cool thing about my coworkers on NFL Live is their kids are all different ages. Like Ryan has a kid who's playing at Notre Dame in college. Marcus's kids are in high school. Dan's kids are like 8 or 9 or something. And then Laura's has a baby. And they've all taught me a lot. I think Laura probably is the most instructive because her kid is like, about a year older than mine. And I've bought so many things upon her recommendation. Including a very deranged bouncing jungle gym thing that we call his office because he goes in there and he just taps at things for a while. But she's given me a lot of good recommendations.
Well, it's not an easy job. Anyone that hasn't done it, it is not an easy job. I've been really impressed by just the grace that you've demonstrated, the outward showing grace. I know it's never easy behind the scenes, but not easy to be a mom and a professional and all the other things that you do. So kudos for that. Speaking of kind of some of those pieces, one of the things you're known for is your quick wit online. And I know you won't own up to it, but like, as someone who is easily triggered, gets frustrated with people tweeting annoying things, you get some of the most asinine things sent to you on a regular basis of anybody. I think a lot of women in sports or women in general have that experience online, but I've never seen you drop down to that level and get ugly. You always have the quickest, fastest, you go high when they go low retort. And I'm curious, where do you get that from? Is there someone in your family that you credit with that?
I don't think I go high. I think you might just
higher
be
than I would, Mina. Higher than I would.
No, I mean, I appreciate it. It's very kind of you to say. The truth is, I just don't see a lot of it. I have it all set up where I only see, the people you follow or something or whatever. So I see it
Mhm.
sometimes. It's hard not to, but I probably see like 5% of it. And I guess that's the number one piece of advice I give to people is the best way to handle it is just to control what you actually see.
Yeah. Yeah, that is good advice. Is your family full of people that are funny or dry-witted?
Well, my mom seems to have quite a Twitter following, so she's not really getting a fighter. She's more positive, but
Yeah,
she's
yeah. Great. Well, let's get down to talk about the Seahawks. I know that's what everybody wants to hear about, and certainly what I'm interested in as well. Um, you have a unique position now, right? You've been a Seahawks fan, but now you cover the whole league, and your focus is probably more there than it is. You've even been, I don't want to bring it up, but you've been color commentator for the Rams, for God's sakes. But um, I'm curious, where do you feel like the national perspective about the Seahawks diverges from maybe the Seahawks fans' perspective about the Seahawks? So there's certain areas of the team, the coaching
interesting.
staff, their prospects that you think maybe are different?
Well, I don't know if I have my finger on the pulse of like what the fan base thinks, but I think one thing where maybe the national perspective differs from what I think, I guess, is and I've been pretty outspoken. I think nationally, Geno Smith is really underappreciated. One thing I feel like I'm constantly, not constantly, but every now and then I'll go on like a thread or a tangent on this topic. Um, the Seahawks offense was atrocious on third down last year, in large part because it exposed how bad their issues were with pass protection.
Hmm.
Issues that you saw not just on third down, but I think that's when it was most noticeable for all the obvious reasons. And when you dig into the underlying pressure numbers, quick pressures on throws of less than 3 seconds, pass block, all of that, you see, oh my God, like Geno Smith was really up against it last year. And I think that's something that I I don't know, when I see quarterback rankings or I hear quarterbacks in the NFC discussed, I think outside of people who have taken the time to really either dig into the numbers or watch Geno's tape, that seems to be underappreciated how bad his pass protection was.
Yeah, related to that, we've been talking about on this show. Gino made some really big strides in terms of pressure to sack ratio as well, which is usually a pretty stable
Yeah.
stat, but he improved there. For a guy that had 40% of his snaps under pressure, to be one of the top 10 in sacks allowed is pretty rare. So that makes a lot of sense. How do you think about Geno? Do you think about him as oh, he's just a bridge guy, we need him for a little bit? Do you think that he's a guy at 33 that's younger than a number of other quarterbacks could play for the Seahawks for 3, 5 years? How do you think about him?
I do. I think his style of play is really conducive towards a long career, especially when you consider the fact that he had this weird stretch of his career where he wasn't a starter, which is so unusual, right? Like the thing about Geno Smith breaking out, his delayed breakout, if you want to call it, is that there's very few similarities in NFL history because you just see very few situations of a quarterback who gets that opportunity after. It wasn't like he was bad for years. He just didn't play for a really long time as a starter anyways. Um, and the qualities I think that he has, the arm talent, the accuracy, are ones that make me think he can continue to play from the pocket. I think his mobility is a little bit underrated too, and factors into that pressure to sack rate you talked about for quite some time. For me, the question is just whether or not the Seahawks both have and can continue to improve upon pass pro. If Geno Smith was behind like the Rams offensive line, honestly, I think he would be a top 8 quarterback, no question, in the NFL. So that to me is like it's probably the single biggest factor as to like whether or not this is going to be a successful Seahawks season is the health and quality of that offensive line, because I think everything else is in place for the offense to really go.
So then it sounds like your answer to this question, I'm going to presume it, you can correct it if I'm wrong, is that, I mean, people have all these quarterback rankings, and I find that actually we're in an era where that's less useful. There's really a question of, can you win a Super Bowl with this quarterback, and what level of supporting cast do you need for that player to be capable? I think your answer to the question of can the Seahawks win a Super Bowl, or can a team win a Super Bowl with Geno Smith as their quarterback? I think that answer is yes.
It's yes. I think you look at teams like I don't know, the Lions, for example. Obviously, San Francisco is always the juggernaut in the division, but I think most people have the Lions as the number 2 team in the NFC. If you switch those quarterbacks, I would undoubtedly think they could win a Super Bowl. And so, to answer your question, yes, but the Lions are a great team. They have arguably the best offensive line in the NFL. So it's very hard to build that kind of team around any quarterback. And it's something that I think will actually determine the answer to your question, whether or not you can do it.
That makes sense. And I figured that would be the way you'd go. So you've talked about the offensive line. I know that that's the quick answer to this, but I'm curious, if not the quarterback, what else do you think are limiting factors right now for the way the Seahawks are constructed that would keep them from being a Super Bowl team, or that they need to develop to be a Super Bowl team?
If I had to rank, I would say the offensive line, multiple positions there. You have questions about, right tackle. I don't know what the deal is with Lucas. You would know better than I would whether that's interior offensive line. There's some problems too. And then I think defensively, I actually think off-ball linebackers are really, really big concern. Not just because there's question marks about that. Also, those players are like injured, right? Which is not
Yep, they're on the PUP.
Disastrous. But also because I think of the state of the NFL right now. You look at the best teams in the league, and most of them have, if not elite, very good off-ball linebacker play. You look at the best offenses, particularly in the NFC, the Packers, the Lions, the Niners, and you can't defend them unless you have really good linebackers. And right now, the Seahawks just don't. I mean, I like the acquisitions. We'll see if they work out. We'll see what McDonald can get out of them. But that to me is a big issue, because otherwise I think there's a lot of upside. I think the secondary is really talented and young and exciting. Defensive tackle is obviously a position of strength. Edge is probably the second biggest weakness. But linebacker, a position that had been so devalued for years in the NFL, I think is more important than ever. And it's concerning to me that Seattle is not stronger there.
You are someone who, I don't know if it's from your investigative background, but you've always been data driven. You've always been evidence backed in your point of view. You're not a quick soundbite person. That's just off the cuff necessarily. A lot of it is based off of research. I'm curious, in this off season, has there been a trend either in the NFL, in data in general, in film watch, all the stuff that you study, that you pay attention to, that's caught your attention that you're kind of curious about, either league wide or just in general?
There's a few things I think that are of interest. I think the off-ball linebacker thing is something we talk about on NFL Live. Last year we focused a lot on sort of the way certain rushing attacks were evolving, particularly the Shanahan offenses. I think looking at some of the better offenses in the league last year and seeing how many of them had success with ultra condensed formations is something that, and a lot of that has to do with obviously them being from the same Shanahan tree. But I also look at those offenses, the way they were able to tie together the run and the pass, the way they use skill players to block, the amount of space that created for those players, and the way it helped the quarterbacks at times. And I am very curious to see whether Seattle goes in a different direction from, the super spread out looks you had under Shane Waldron with Ryan Grubb. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be, but I'm very curious. So those are, a lot of people have talked about this, but sorry, I have a weird microphone on my finger. The prevalence of the pistol formation, something, by the way, you saw in Seattle too, a decent amount. I think they're probably a top 8 pistol team last year. Which again cuts to kind of the whole integration of the run and the pass a little bit more. All of that I think is kind of interesting. I think that we are going. So when I think about the 3 offenses that were more like spread out, I think that but we're still good. You think of Seattle, Buffalo is another one, Philadelphia, and I think all 3 of those offenses are probably going to evolve a little bit this year, and that's something that I'm curious to see too.
Yeah, well, we're going to do some quick hitters here before we let you go. Mina has a million different commitments, so we're very lucky to have her for a few minutes today. Quick hitters. Brandon Ayuk, will he be traded?
No, I think they're going to keep him.
I
wish.
Are people underestimating the potential run defense problems in San Francisco? Given Eric Armstead leaving, given the fact that they dropped quite a bit last year, Is that a problem?
Yeah, and Dre Greenlaw is starting the
Mhm.
season on injured as well. That was the single biggest weakness with this team last year. It's one that Seattle wasn't able to exploit, but they consistently rank near the bottom of the NFL, as you know, in a lot of run metrics. And I think it could be an issue. I think Armstead is a sneaky big loss in that respect.
Who do you listen to? Who do you read? Who do you find maybe deserves a shout for some really good,
On football,
insightful, yeah, football related? And then
uh,
we'll ask the other part too. We're gonna get non-football in a
yeah,
minute.
well, I mostly listen to like politics podcasts, honestly, these days. But
Yeah,
reading, the great Bill Barnwell, of course, at ESPN is fantastic. We just hired a young writer who I really like named Kalen Collar as well. He does a great job covering the league. Someone I definitely recommend. Ted Wynn at The Athletic, I think, does a really good job on kind of X's and O's type stuff. I was just chatting with him a little bit. So that's someone I would recommend too for anyone who wants to learn a little bit more about the sport.
yes, Ted was on the show, friend of show.
Great.
Great. Quick super chat I'm going to fit in here from Wash Farm. I love you, Mina. Thanks for all your great analysis and so ably representing us on the
Oh,
national stage. I know that's the
appreciate
general feeling out there, Mina. All right, couple more quick hitters.
it. Maybe.
Are you team recline or never recline on airplanes?
Never recline. Unless it's like a
Dang.
nighttime flight, then I think all bets are
Okay.
off. Yeah.
What's one must-have item on your grocery list each week?
Oh gosh. Well, I had a baby, so it's just like baby shit. Baby yogurt. I ate one of his yogurts the other day though, and I'm not gonna lie, it was as good as a adult
They're pretty
yogurt.
rich. They're pretty rich.
Very rich.
I know you were a Love Is Blind fan. Have you seen the show, the live show Love Isn't Blind?
No, I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna recommend you check it out. They're traveling right now, but it is a pretty fun live performance. So that would recommend. Do you have a favorite pregame food or drink?
I used to like wings a lot, but now I'm always at home watching, or I'm at like the war room at ESPN. So I'm very rarely at sports bars these days, unfortunately. I really miss wings.
Wings, it is. Mina, thank you so much for carving out a few minutes for us. Hopefully, we'll see you again. Congratulations on all the success, continued success to you, and obviously keep representing the Hawks as best you can.
Appreciate it. Geno did nothing wrong.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. That was Mina Kimes. Great to have her on the show. One of the best, I think the best from my perspective out there. And people have all sorts of perspectives. And the fact of the matter is, there are folks that completely dismiss Mina Kimes because she's a woman. I mean, it's just reality. I see it all the time online. I think Mina's takes on football are as good or better than anyone else in the sport, anyone else in the industry. And for me, I don't care gender, age, whatever, like nationality, all that stuff. If you have good points, if you've done your work, I want to listen to you. And Mina is amazingly detailed in what she does, always fact based, always looking at evidence, always learning. If you listen to Mina and what she knows and talks about now versus before, she has soaked up so much knowledge. So incredibly fortunate to have a chance to talk to her and hear her go on. I do want to take one more bit since this is I'm on anyway. There was some news that came out. I was going to do a separate show on it. I'll probably just tag it onto this, which is that Connor Williams, formerly of the Dallas Cowboys, of the Miami Dolphins, has a visit scheduled with the Seattle Seahawks tomorrow, according to Adam Schefter. Why does this matter? Who is Connor Williams? Well, maybe on another show, maybe even tomorrow's show, I will play you some sound of when I did the Dolphins preview already for Hawk Blogger Mornings. And when I was listening to those podcasts, listening to people that track the Dolphins really carefully, this is a guy that they talked about as being one of the best offensive linemen in all of football. And he had played for the Dolphins the year prior. He is someone who had a knee injury, an ACL, late last year in December. That is why he's available. There was some concern that he might medically retire. It was a pretty serious injury. I'm a little surprised that come July, they're already having a meeting, but Drew Rosenhaus is his agent. I think he was talking about him maybe signing toward the end of free agency. So we'll find out. But let me just tell you, if this happens, it is very big news. Maybe not for this year. Maybe at tail end of this year, it comes in. But if this becomes a path to Connor Williams being part of the Seahawks offensive line in future years, that's huge. This guy is 27 years old. He's 6'5", 320. He had an 86.5 grade as a center last year. I think second best in all the NFL. This is a blue chip offensive lineman. And so if the Seahawks are willing to maybe make an investment that allows them to have him over multiple years, this could be huge. Now, I'm interested in Olu Oluwatimi and what he can do. Obviously, you got Nick Harris, but let's be honest, Connor Williams is a different breed, a different level. And so if you're talking about adding him to this Seahawks roster and there's a chance he could play this year, it is a no-brainer. And it would have ripple effects on the rest of this roster. He has had some experience playing guard. So maybe it would be something that would affect Lincoln Tomlinson. Maybe it's something that would affect the right guard spot. But generally speaking, I think of him as a center. That's where I think he would come in. And I was happy to hear. This is good news. This is good news. We'll wait and see. It could be nothing, but it's absolutely something to pay attention to. This is not one of those random visits from random guys that, of course they're available. Who cares? This is a very, very good player who a lot of teams would love to have on their roster if he is healthy. All right. With that, folks, gonna say, make sure you tune in tomorrow morning. Danny Kelly of The Ringer. Danny, Mina, and I have done shows together for a number of years. Obviously, Mina has reached a different stratosphere. Danny Kelly has obviously succeeded as well in what he's done. I was off doing my tech thing, but these are all smart people that I have a ton of respect for. I'm really looking forward to catching up with Danny tomorrow. So that'll be at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Wednesday, the day after, I will be going to training camp. I will be giving immediate after camp reports. I will be starting to write on the blog again, hawkblogger.com, my training camp notes, which I know a lot of you love and look forward to, where I go through everything that's going on relative to the Seahawks in that practice, everything that I learned, everything that I still don't know. There'll be a lot of content coming your way. So now is the time to join. Give the show a like, click subscribe. And we already had someone join as a YouTube member on the show. Forrest Luke, I want to welcome you to the party, welcome you to the family. You can see Forrest has got the little emblem next to his name. I will see all his questions. I will see all his comments during the show, after the show, anywhere on the YouTube channel. Great way to make sure that we have a chance to interact a little bit more. Other folks in those different YouTube member levels get additional perks. So depending on what level you sign up for, you get more. And now patreon.com/hawkblogger is the time to join, because you get all the audio versions of this podcast ad-free. And you get access to the Slack channel where you get to talk to all the other Seahawks fans that are following along and obsessing with the rest of us. And it's not too late to join as a Ring of Honor member. Evan Hill, Jeffrey Simmons, Nathan Ernst, myself, as well as a bunch of other folks are going to be at Daniel's Broiler before the first game of the season, having a great dinner together. You can join as a Ring of Honor member, get invited to that dinner, have a great time, and support the show in the biggest possible way. So love all the support we've been getting. Appreciate all of you. And folks, it's getting here. Tomorrow is the first day of training camp. It's not a day that I can attend, but it is the first day of training camp. All the news is going to start. We're going to have a lot of conversations, a lot of great guests. So make sure you like and subscribe. Click the bell to get notified, because you never know when there's going to be a 2:15 p.m. show with Mina Kimes or someone else that's amazing. All right, everybody. Great to see you all again. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate y'all. I'm Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Hawk Blogger. This has been a special episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings.